Dressage with Sally Q&A Friday. We've got 2 great questions today, so let's get started. The first question is from Fiona on YouTube, and Fiona asks, I'm currently training at prep level but working on contact. I understand that contact is something that even Grand Prix riders are still trying to perfect. So at the basics, what skill level of contact do I need to consider myself competent? So contact, you're right Fiona, contact is something that riders are constantly working on and throughout their careers are constantly trying to perfect and improve and get better. I don't like to say this is what you should be feeling at prep level, this is what you should be feeling at prelim level, and so on, because I think that puts some sort of limitation, that can put a limitation in the mind of the rider. I only need to be this good, I only need to be that good, where your contact might be really good in prep level, but your seat might be need work, or your contact might be really good, but your transitions need work. Often things go hand in hand, and that's fine, but one person's contact will be really good and another person, their contact will be not so hot, but they'll have a better leg position or a good seat, or so I don't really like to put a constraint on it. However, it is a constant thing that you're working on. But what you want to think about is that, is it achieving the goals you want to achieve? So in prep level, you're looking at your walk and trot work and the transitions in all of those. Are your transitions smooth? Is your horse's frame consistent? Is the length of trot steps consistent? Is your speed consistent? Is your horse taking the bit, or is your horse playing with the bit? Is your horse chewing the bit or chomping on the bit? Those 2 things are quite important, the chewing or the chomping. So they're all things that you can think about that are directly affected by contact. The other thing to think about is, do I have one? No. I was looking for a rubber band. What you want that contact to be elastic. So if the horse moves its mouth forward or backward, your elbow is that elastic element in the whole connection that keeps that contact there, that keeps the connection there. And that really is the essence of contact, is maintaining connection. So the skill level of contact, you consider your skill level of contact by what else is going on with the horse and what else is going on in your training. And everything will be at a certain level, and then it will slowly move up, and then it will slowly move up, and don't forget you have a few steps back before your steps forward, and that kind of thing. And don't forget that if you have time off, or if you go on a trail ride, you're going to be having different types of contact, and then when you come back to training, your contact might be a week behind, or it might not be as good as it was the last time you trained. So it's something that can be a little bit malleable as well, and also the health level of the horse. If the horse is a little bit sore under the saddle, then the contact is going to be affected. If the horse has had time off and then comes back in, again, the contact is going to be affected. So there's different things to consider, but if everything's going nice and smoothly and your transitions are where you want them to be, and you're doing the exercises in trot that you want to be, in prep level you're working towards canter. So as long as that canter work is coming along at a pace that you're happy with, then your contact is probably fine. So I wouldn't worry too much about being at a particular level, or having a contact that is a 7 out of 10 or an 8 out of 10. Look at the things in your training that are happening, and give those, you know, give those a rating if you must. And that way you can say, okay, so contact is just one element of my transitions. Contact is just one element of my gaits and my movements, and look at it more like in that way. And you might have wanted a definitive black and white answer, but yeah, I don't want to give you one, because I think it has too many constraints and doesn't fit with my understanding of dressage. I mean, the other thing to think about is the training scale and connection. It goes rhythm, relaxation, and then connection. So contact is part of the connection, and that is they're really basic basic sections of the training scale. And you know, like rhythm and relaxation is your forward and power and balance to a degree. So you know, I mean, that is the very basic. So once you've got that, the next thing to think about is your contact. And you know, so because it's such an important thing on the training scale, yes, it's important, you know, to be able to gauge how your horse, you know, to be able to get your horse to do the things that you want to do, and it's important in terms of connection. Yeah, and so in saying that, because it's important in connection, and because rhythm and relaxation have been, you know, I mentioned first, you want to be able to make sure your horse is forward and, you know, going into the bridle. And so in the horse going forward into the bridle, the hands keep the connection and the contact and the bridle still. So the horse has somewhere to go, something to go into, and can take that bit forward with, you know, minimal fuss and bother. And that's probably the best way to think about contact and what to focus on. So I hope that's answered your question, Fiona. Do you have trouble with contact? What kind of trouble, or is it only at a particular time? Put your thoughts below. Like, tell me how contact works for you. Okay, our next question comes from Heather on Facebook, and Heather asks, what are the best lunging methods to encourage stretching down and using the back instead of legs? Okay, so lunging is a great tool to use in your training, and I certainly use it on my horses. I don't use it as a rule. I use it when I need to. For example, if it's not suitable to go for a hack out on their, you know, on their easy day, I'll lunge instead. And sometimes if if I'm short on time, I'll lunge, or, you know, there's a variety of reasons why I would lunge, but I don't do it as a rule, mainly because I like riding and I find it easier to train the horse and, you know, fix the little imperfections when I'm riding. So, you know, why not? So that's what I want to, yes, that's where I want to start with lunging. However, I know that lots of people do lunge. For me, if I'm lunging a horse, I will either, if it's a well-trained horse, I often don't put side reins or a bungee on, because, you know, again, I'm using the lunge as an easy day, so I don't want to put too much pressure on the horse. And, you know, the well-trained ones, they will lunge, or, you know, effectively on the bit without any side reins anyway. So, you know, I often don't use side reins on those horses. On a young horse, if I'm lunging, I will use side reins, or I'll use one side rein just on the outside of the horse, and that way the inside of the horse, you know, the horse has the side rein on the outside, the lunge rein coming back to me on the inside. And I find that that's a really good way. You know, I've got a lot of play, and there's quite a bit of things, you know, I can work on a half halt using the lunge rein if I've got an outside contact. You know, it's very similar to riding, of course, lots of transitions. And, you know, so that means you have to have your horse really obedient to the voice. And, you know, often you'll be using different size circles. So, you know, if you've got a 20 meter round yard, say, or if you're lunging on your arena, have a few circles at 20 meters, then bring it into 15 meters. And once the horse is really, really warmed up, you can bring it into 10 meters, but don't leave it there. 1 or 2 circles on at 10 meters is more than enough, and then let the rein back out and let your horse go out onto that bigger circle. And what that's doing, especially if you're using it in conjunction with a side rein or a bungee, is that you're building that muscle, and that's what lunging is really for. You want to build that top line, build the horse's core, the stomach muscles that hold the belly up, and push the top line, up under the saddle. That's what you're trying to do with your lunge. So I'm not too sure. I don't think that you can't do both, because when you're lunging, of course, if you want the horse carrying and working on strengthening, you have your side reins short, but if you want your horse to stretch down, you need those side reins long. But by the time you've brought the horse in, made everything long, and sent it back out again, of course you've lost all the work that you gained by strengthening and by shortening the horse. So there's that element. So I would suggest that do your lunging as a way of strengthening and suppling the horse, and then practice your stretching down once you're on the horse's back, because especially inexperienced horses, they may reach down, but they might only be able to stay there for 4 or 5 steps, and that doesn't really. You might do that on the lunge, and then the horse comes back up because it's lost its balance, and you're left scratching your head. Why can't my horse go around with its head, nose, pushing down and out? And that's because it's not strong enough. So, you need more riding, more lunging, if that's what you like to do, to make the horse strong, so that once you are in the saddle, you can encourage it down, encourage, and especially you've got that far better feel on the bit, with the reins, of course, and you can make those micro adjustments. You can do micro half halts. You can do 20, in a couple of steps if you need to, or you can do 1 or 2 around your circle if that's what you need to encourage your horse to stay in that position. But yeah, in terms of lunging for stretching and using the back instead of legs, it's a bit too difficult on the lunge if your horse is not trained, I don't know, say medium or above. Once a horse is trained to medium or above, it's really starting to work on, higher levels of collection. And once you've got those high levels of collection, your horse is strong enough to be able to stretch forward and down on the lunge and, get that stretch that you might be looking for. There's so many exercises you can do, and keep the lunge, keep the variety when you're in. Keep the variety in your lunge. Keep the variety in your lunge. Keep the variety in your lunging. Don't just let the horse go around endlessly. And the other thing with lunging, make sure it's even. If you count your circles, or set a little timer on your phone. For my horses, they do between 5 and 10 circles before I'll change rein. And that's to make sure that, like, who wants to count more than 10? It gets a bit, you start to forget what you're doing. A horse that's done more than 10 circles, it really needs to swap over and, do the other side. But yeah, mine do 5, 6 or 7 each side before we swap. And it keeps, keeps the lunge fresh as well. So that's why we don't do too many circles in a row. And I often do different size circles as well, and depending on the horse. So thank you for your questions. Of course, comment below with your question. Are you stuck on a particular movement? Are you stuck on, have you got questions around, training, the training scale, different types of horses? Of course, let me know in the comments below. And if this video has helped you, then give us a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, and tag a friend if one of these questions will help someone don't forget to tag them in the comments. So thank you for listening. I really appreciate your eyes and ears. I'll talk to you next time.